dramatic fall was as unnecessary as it was unwelcome. Had already...
This guy, if the Americans had Tiger Woods, we have young Roy, and believe you me, this boy can hit a ball. I watched him.
Drop for birdie.
What a finish for McIlroy! Go ahead, Rory McIlroy.
Golf is played in two ways, physically and mentally. The strength needed to pound a ball 300 yards, the strength to drive a green in one big swing, the strength to hit your ball out of rough situations, but also mentally, the strength to bounce back after a failure, the strength to prove those doubters wrong and do the impossible, and the strength to create golfing history. Strength. Something that 99% of golfers cannot fulfill. Some aren't strong enough, some do crumble under the pressure, some can't bounce back. But then there's that 1%. The 1% that have something that separate the good from the best. But who? This is inside the mind of Rory McIlroy. Growing up in Hollywood, Northern Ireland, it was clear from a very young age that McIlroy was set apart from the crowd. He was hitting 40-yard drives by age 3 and practiced by chipping balls into his mum's wash machine. He studied golfing legend Nick Faldo and even went to bed holding a 7-iron, just so he could memorise the grip. With all this, it was no surprise that he became the youngest ever member at his local Hollywood golf club and was nicknamed the Anorak of Tiger Woods. After becoming a scratch golfer at the age of 12, he began to enter competitions, winning under 15s and under 18s Ulster competitions, as well as the Junior Ryder Cup for Europe in 2005. At just 16, he broke the record in his home country at the famous Royal Portrush course, which still remains the record today, despite the likes of Tiger Woods, Scotty Scheffler, Phil Mickelson and so many more playing there since. At this age, Rory stood out from rookies for one clear reason: his confidence. At a young age, playing with senior players causes most rookies to crumble under the pressure. But Rory, he thrived under it. Coming into his first ever major in the form of the 2007 Open, most amateurs would struggle. But for Rory, he shot a bogey-free first round of 68 to put him joint third on day one. Despite finishing down the pack, it was clear that McIlroy had something special around him. And if people hadn't seen it yet, it wouldn't be long before they did. Across the late 2000s, Rory began making his debut in each of the big majors. In 2009, he made his debut for the Masters, US Open and PGA Championship, finishing in respectable positions in each. He began picking up PGA Tour wins left and right, as well as making the 2010 Ryder Cup team, helping Europe regain the cup. At this point, Rory was quickly moving up the world rankings, from 200th in January 2007 to 79th a few months later, to 39th by the end of the year, and to 9th by 2009. His ball striking ability as well as his monstrous driving topped any other player. The only thing he was missing now was a major. And with the 2011 Masters coming up, Rory had his goal set: wear the green jacket.
Oh yes, Rory McIlroy.
McIlroy began to dominate Augusta. He wiped the floor with the likes of Westwood, Mickelson and Woods, who struggled to gain any sort of traction. At the end of round 1, he shot a 65, 7 under par. He followed this up with a 69 and a 70 to lead the third day 4 shots ahead of the rest at 12 under. It was one of the largest ever leads going into the final day of the Masters. Surely he could sweep up now. However, reality hit a little different.
And now Rory, look out. Through the tree. And that hit it. Misery is over. It's ended with a triple.
A solid front 9 performance was met with a triple at 10, bogey at 11 and double at 12. McIlroy had gone from 12 under to 4 under by the end of the day, finishing tied 15th. To this day, this is still the deepest fall by a 54-hole leader in Masters history. And for Rory, it was clear what happened. He couldn't handle the pressure. But the question now wasn't about how he collapsed. It was whether he could recover. Over the years, there has been countless examples of big-name players losing majors and never recovering from them. Look at Greg Norman, who went into the 96 Masters with a 6-shot lead, losing to Nick Faldo and never winning a major again. Or what about Van de Velde, who bottled the 99 Open and never won a major again. Many thought if McIlroy was to win anything ever again, it would take him years to recover. But just 67 days later, Rory teed off at the US Open. Expectations were low, but in the space of just 4 rounds, the unthinkable happened.
There is no give there. Let's see if he can make it.
McIlroy showing us something.
Round 1 saw him prove everybody wrong, shooting a 65, 66, and then a 68. He was on fire. The doubts over his ability to cope under pressure were washed away in just a couple of weeks as he stormed in front. His game was filled with long drives and attacking shots, despite people expecting him to play safe. Coming into the last round, he entered 8 shots ahead of the rest. An unbelievable lead, and surely he could not lose now. However, he's done this before. I mean, just 6 weeks earlier, he was in this exact same position, and we know how that ended. Could Rory McIlroy handle the pressure?
Another US Open champion to Northern Ireland. An unreal performance from Rory McIlroy, the 2011 United States Open champion.
A sensational weekend saw one of the biggest redemptions in golfing history, as McIlroy had gone from collapsing at the Masters to breaking the record for the most dominant US Open performance ever, a record previously held by both Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods, as well as being just the 5th ever player to shoot under par in every single round of the US Open. All of this in the space of just 6 weeks. Psychologists literally couldn't explain how Rory's mentality changed in such a small amount of time. I think psychologist Dr. Patrick Cohn explained it best. It was clear watching him at the US Open that he learned a lot from his Masters experience and turned adversity into triumph. Unlike other golfers who would have just given up, Rory learned from his mistakes and thrived from it. This was evident coming into 2012 as he picked up even more titles. The Honda Classic win took his world rankings to world number 1 in March 2012, becoming the 2nd youngest ever to do this at just 22 years of age, obviously behind Tiger Woods, who was 21. His performances got even better as he lifted the PGA Championship in 2012, winning by 8 strokes, once again breaking the record for the largest win margin in the tournament's history. 2013 was, well, rubbish, cheers Nike, but 2014 went down as one of the most successful seasons ever. He got the better of Phil Mickelson in a very competitive final round to win yet another PGA Championship by just a single stroke. A similar story happened in the British Open, where he fought off Ricky Fowler and Sergio Garcia to win his first claret jug in Liverpool too. At this point, Rory was reinstated as world number 1, and after helping Europe win the 2014 Ryder Cup, there was no doubt that he was the best golfer in the world. But then something was realised. Rory McIlroy had won the PGA Championship, US Open, and British Open, meaning there was one prestigious major missing out, which would give him his career Grand Slam, and would be just the 6th ever person to achieve this, permanently cementing himself in golfing history books, with names like Ben Hogan, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods and more. The goal was set. In 2014, Rory McIlroy set out to win the Masters. But little did he know that what was to play out over the next decade would almost break him forever. 2016 saw Rory fighting with Spieth for the lead at Augusta, closing the gap down to a single shot on the second round. However, after hitting a +5 in day 3, he was out of the running, and despite winning his first FedEx title, as well as a bitter battle with Patrick Reed in the Ryder Cup, he was still without a Masters. 2017 was a similar story. His move from Nike to TaylorMade brought initial struggles as he finished 7th. In 2018, he was one of the leaders at the Masters, then collapsed again. 2019, 2020, 2021, it was a constant loop of trying again. And despite doing well outside the Masters, retaining his world number 1 status from time to time, the hunt for the Grand Slam was still there. But the problem now wasn't about the desire, it was about the pressure. Going into 2022, it would be McIlroy's 8th season without winning any majors. The more the drought went on, the worse the pressure got. The 2022 Masters saw Rory nowhere near contention, and despite a near record-breaking final round, he finished runner-up to Scottie Scheffler. The US Open, British Open and PGA Championship saw similar stories, seeing him respectfully finish in top 10 of each. At 34 years of age, time was running out for Rory to earn his Grand Slam or even win a major ever again. But that was until 2024, where Rory had the chance to get back on track.
stuff, never anywhere else.
McIlroy sat joint top in the final round of the US Open with Bryson DeChambeau. A win would finally end his major drought and get him back on track for his Grand Slam. But what was to happen next would go down as one of the biggest chokes in golfing history.
Another epic up and down at Pinehurst for the US Open Championship. Bryson now has two. The second at number 2.
Now, Rory McIlroy has decided to take a break from golf following the heartbreaking end to his US Open campaign.
It was over. After missing a 5-foot putt to win the US Open, it felt like this was the end for Rory McIlroy. It was clear that his glory days were behind him, and any chance of winning any major ever again, especially at his age, was practically out the window. Except, not quite. Rory started the 2025 Masters with a bang. Despite the rough start, he crept up the leaderboard, and by the third round, he stood on 12 under, 2 shots ahead of Bryson DeChambeau at second. It was once again Rory against Bryson for another major. Except this time, Rory learned from his mistakes. It came down to the last hole. DeChambeau had crashed out the competition, and it was now between McIlroy and Justin Rose for the Masters title. Rose had already finished at 11 under, meaning all McIlroy needed was a par. And at last, after a decade of hurt and bottling, he would finally have his Grand Slam. He had missed it. McIlroy made the exact same mistake as the US Open and sent it into a playoff. Rory had once again messed it up, and his Masters hopes were hanging on by a thread. Except, remember I said earlier, I think psychologist Dr. Patrick Cohn explained it best. It was clear watching him at the US Open that he learned a lot from his Masters experience and turned adversity into triumph. But then there's that 1%. The 1% that have something that separate the good from the best. But who? See, the 1% I mentioned earlier have something. And that something is redemption.
I'm still lying in bed last night thinking about this.
The long journey is over. McIlroy has his masterpiece.
He had done it. Years and years of hurt and pain, from the collapse of the 2011 Masters, the triumph of 2014, the drought that lasted over a decade that consisted of choking time and time again, didn't give McIlroy pressure or fear, but resilience. Rory McIlroy had his Grand Slam.